Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is still Rapid Done right here on Rapid Television. And of course, earlier on, Victor Ejoma was there to keep you updated in the world of sports. Right now, it's time for the big conversation. I do apologize that we're starting the show later than our scheduled time. But of course, my name is Victor. Okay.
My name is Martha Alu, and welcome to the 9 o'clock hour. Again, apologies for starting out late, but we have a few headlines that we believe that it's important that you get updated with.
Very true. And of course, we're talking about the political terrain. For quite some time right now, we've told you about the fact that it is getting really interesting in the political scene, of course, especially because 2027 is just by the corner, where we have various politicians, various parties, they're all getting ready for their primaries. Some have actually had their primaries, and of course, we've had lots of stories coming out from various cities, various states, and very recently, the filmmaker, actor who turned politician, talking about the Lagos lawmaker Desmond Elliot. He's been making serious allegations ahead of the APC primaries in Surulere. Well, according to him, there have been attempts to intimidate him politically, and he also claimed that his security aides were withdrawn. Now, this is happening at a time when political tension is already rising ahead of the party primaries. And honestly, one thing Nigerians keep asking is this: should internal party politics become this intense? Because again, at the end of the day, primaries are supposed to be a democratic process. But of course, we see many times we get to hear stories of pressure, intimidation, and political power play. But for the case of Desmond Elliot, is this really a case of political intimidation? And that's something that lots of people have been talking about, especially from the Surulere axis of Lagos State. Very recently, I also saw that, of course, Femi Bajibiamila, the chief of staff of the president, came out to say that he has washed his hands off the case of Desmond Elliot. And some have said that Femi Bajibiamila has been one person who has supported him so much from the start. But let's quickly watch the chief of staff make his statement.
I almost lost my job as the chief of staff last year because of Desmond Elliot. You are live today, you can go and verify with him. The president called me to his study in his house in Abuja.
Remember the case of Obasa, the Speaker of the Lagos State Assembly, who was impeached sometime last year. Femi Bajibiamila did say that the president called him into his study and asked him if Desmond Elliot was part of the person who was instigating the impeachment of the then Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. And the chief of staff said that Desmond Elliot was not part of them because according to him, he has so much love and trust on Desmond Elliot, stating that he was not going to be part of those particular individuals. And then he went ahead to call Desmond Elliot and said to him that if you are not part of the people who are instigating the impeachment process of Obasa, then come outside and make a public statement. According to the chief of staff, Desmond Elliot never made that apology, never made that disclaimer up until when he made that particular video. Hence, now he has washed his hands of Desmond Elliot.
Which were you?
What would
were
you do,
you?
right?
You were going to cost me my job.
Right.
And I don't think this whole it's a state politics. You are already playing national politics.
Right.
You are in the FCT. I don't know why. I mean, maybe he's from Lagos, of course,
He's from
because
Lagos. That's actually
I mean,
his own area.
his
as well.
own area from Lagos, which is why I understand his interest in that area. However, if you're going to cost me my job by refusing to come out and put out a disclaimer, then I will do the same thing. In all fairness, I will do the same. And I think that he's been out and speaking a little too much.
And
yes, and I do believe that when a person speaks like that consistently out there, they're bound to make mistakes. A talkative will always make mistakes. And it's called the curse of a talkative, right? These are errors that they would make. So whether or not he's part of the impeachment plan, so if he is not coming out to say, he's not part of the impeachment plan, it means he's actually part of the impeachment plan for Obasa, or he was part of the impeachment plan for Obasa, which now makes Femi Gbajabiamila a liar to the president.
Right.
Because he said to the president he was not part of them, just trying to protect his interest. It's politics. They're going to be okay. That's one thing I would say. But he also did make a video, I understand,
right.
trying to talk about whether or not he was part of the whole plan, right?
And talking about the intimidation.
And
right?
intimidation.
He was stating that his security aides or personnel was withdrawn from him. But let's quickly watch that video as well.
Right.
Good day, great Surularians. My name is Desmond Elliott and I represent you at the Lagos State House of Assembly. While I want to appreciate the president of this great country, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course the party leadership for allowing direct primaries to hold across the country, we say thank you so much, because this is meant to test the popularity of all the aspirants across board. But I want to bring to your notice that intimidation, coercion, arm twisting, and forcing people to follow their own candidate is what is existing today in Surulere. Telling them that they will not be beneficiaries of some empowerment that is coming some other time. Please, this is not done, should not be done. We are all members of the same party. We've been intimidated so much so that a lot of people from the local government have been fired because they follow me. That should not be allowed. It is bad enough that the LGA at the local government already took a side months ago. The local government already took a side to support a particular aspirant. I didn't say anything, but they were shocked to have seen the quantum number of people and supporters that we've had and have followed us because they believe in justice and they believe in fair play. More so, my security personnel was taken away from me yesterday for reasons best known to I don't know. Now I am left alone to myself. What have I done? They are coming out to fight us. They want to bring people from outside and from within to cause mayhem and to cause trouble. Please allow for a free, fair election on the 20th of May 2026. Come peacefully, stand behind your candidates, and by the grace of God, if I, Desmond Olushola, wins, alhamdulillah. If I, Desmond Olushola, wins, alhamdulillah. If I...
Well, that's Desmond Elliott right there, talking, of course, made some serious allegations there. However, he's been calling on all supporters to ensure that they turn up tomorrow, to make their vote. Of course, that's where the primary is going to be happening for the APC in Lagos State, especially the Surulere axis of Lagos State. That's going to be happening tomorrow. Fingers crossed to see what the outcome is going to be regarding that.
Absolutely so. It's tomorrow. I mean, at this point, nothing can be said about what the intimidation. It's politics. He knows the party that he is
it's
part of.
Politics. Calling up for intimidation.
I'm heading somewhere.
All right, let's get you there.
It is politics. It will happen, right? These are things that will happen.
Right.
Because he has talked about his security detail being taken away from him. He has talked about the people being intimidated. At the end of the day, what solves the matter is the polls. When we get to the polls, we will decide whether, because he has said a lot of people, they were surprised at the number of people that came out, to vote for him, the number of people that came out to support him rather. And, you could see on the streets, people coming out, chanting songs in support of him, Desmond Elliott. But he has said it, the polls will decide. If he emerges, alhamdulillah, according to what he said.
Right.
But if he doesn't, I hope that he will also be willing to step aside for whoever wins eventually to occupy that office. Now, I'm talking about other headlines that we have lined up here for today. Remember that the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital had put out a circular talking about the mistreatment by a certain doctor by EFCC. The story says that they thought, according to them, that they came seeking the approval of a certain letter. So there was a fraud case at EFCC, and they sent personnel to the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital to inquire whether or not the how do we call it now? The
EFCC personnel?
No, it was a how do they call this? It's supposed to be verified the claims of the person, at the EFCC's custody. I would remember that, and I would just definitely talk to us about it. But yes, it was supposed to verify whether or not he had any of the medical conditions that he claimed that he had. So they sent an official inquiry request to the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, trying to find out whether or not that was true from the part of that person. So they got there. It was quite a lot between the EFCC and the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital. But yes, there's a video where the doctor was narrating, or the surgeon rather was narrating what happened between himself and the EFCC. Let's take a look.
The official permission I got to travel for official engagement outside of Akwa Ibom State, when I resumed on Monday, I added that responsibility with the clinical duties I had, teaching of resident doctors and also teaching of medical students on that Monday. I added the responsibility of confirming that medical report. I also had to invite the head of internal medicine department to look at that report, because the diagnosis that the medical report carried was that of internal medicine, that is a medical diagnosis, and the head of that internal medicine department looked at the report and also discovered that the name of the doctor that signed the report is not a member of staff of that department. So with the other evidences that we got, it was easy to write a response for EFCC, and I did that on Monday, which was 11th of April 2026. Sorry, 11th of May 2026. And on 12th of May 2026, that was yesterday, in the morning, the EFCC personnel came into my office and they introduced himself. He came alone, introduced himself, and told me that he was coming to collect that response. I told him that the response was ready in drafts. I showed him the draft. I showed it to him, and he saw it. And I told him that what was left was for me to show to my chief medical director, who is the chief executive officer of this institution, before I would put it on. It would be printed on.
All right, that is the doctor trying to narrate what happened between himself and EFCC, trying to obtain a medical report for a person who had a case at EFCC. And like we did maintain this morning, nothing justifies you getting into the hospital and disrupting order and peace. Not just the hospital, anywhere. We have talked about the EFCC going to people's homes and harassing them, which was a trend in the last couple of years. We're seeing a significant reduction of that, because I do believe that they have a system in which they operate with, which means that when there's an issue that you need to have clarifications about, it's either you invite the person responsible or you visit them at their office and find out why what you have requested from them has not yet been given to you. Like he explained, he actually had responded to EFCC about the medical report that they were coming to find out about. However, they went to the hospital premises, they threw tear gas, I think they shot at the air, making noise, dragged doctors out. We are not barbarians. We're very civilized human beings, and we must act in that light. So now EFCC also did put out a circular. I don't know if you can have that displayed as well. EFCC came out apologizing to the doctor for the maltreatment, and that's what it reads. The EFCC chairman speaking about the incident, and he sent a direct apology to ECPE NMA and pursuant to the recipient and consideration of a preliminary report on the 12th of May 2026 incident involving personnel of the commission and medical staff of the Uyo University Teaching Hospital. The executive chairman, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, has directed that an apology be made to Professor Eyo Ekpe, the Deputy Chairman, Medical Advisory Committee of the UUTH, and members of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA. Now, while acknowledging the well-being of Nigerians is at the core of the Commission's mandate, he also expressed regret at the discomfort and unfortunate episode caused by staff of the hospital, caused to the staff of the hospital and the members of the public. Now, he also did talk about reiterating the Commission's decision, ordering a full investigation of the incident. He also assured that once the exercise is completed, any officer found to have acted outside of the acceptable code of professional conduct will be subjected to the internal disciplinary process. Now, Mr. Olukoyede expressed determination to work with stakeholders to resolve all the issues and forestall a repeat of such episodes in future. He, however, stated that the unfortunate incident would not detract the commission from pressing ahead with the execution of its mandate in any part of Nigeria. He also did call on the members of the NMA and other professional bodies to continue to support the EFCC in the delicate assignment of reading Nigeria of economic and financial crimes and other forms of corruption. This that they put out there, to Nigerians, well said. I love the part where he talked about forestalling any of such events repeating itself anywhere in Nigeria. It's important that their jobs or their responsibilities being carried out, however, not to the detriment of any other person. And I was just hoping to see the part where they addressed the 1 million naira, the 1 billion naira lawsuit against EFCC. That might also be dropped. It would have been a very interesting case. But yeah, that's what we have on this update.
Very true. And of course, we talked about professionalism as much as possible. It's important that every law enforcement agency has got to act professionally to ensure that they carry out their own duties and not to put the lives of Nigerians at risk.
Absolutely.
Well, away from that particular story, we see that a 69-year-old retiree of the Nigerian Port Authority was seen crying at the MPA entrance gate while demanding her pension. According to reports, she says that she has waited for about 16 years without receiving her pension benefits. And honestly, this story touched lots of Nigerians because, of course, many retirees across Nigeria face this particular situation about delay. We also see that Nigerian Police Force has similar situation. Almost every agency has similar situations when it comes to the payment of their pension, their gratuity, and all of that. Now, seeing that someone or some persons have worked all their life, and of course, at the end of the job, after 16 years, after the years of service, basically, what is due to you is your pension, is your gratuity. What is the rationale behind the fact that they have to be owed for another 16 years? They have to, most times, march down to government offices before the government of the day can get to listen to them. These are concerns, and we're hoping that the Nigerian government can do a lot more better to ensuring that those that are to be paid their pensions, and these are old people now, they have to be paid that money without lots of drama being made across various parts of Nigeria. Well, of course, that's why we're on that particular story.
Now, let's move on to the very next headline we will want to keep you updated with, which is about the bail of Malam Nasiru El-Rufai. Now, it is no news that he has been at the EFCC's custody because of an interview which he had on Arise TV. On that interview, he was talking about how he tapped the phone of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. And while he tapped the phone, he had a conversation about certain hazardous materials being transported outside of Nigeria into Nigeria. And according to research about that, according to research about that substance, it is harmful and it was used for criminal killings in the late 90s, 1890s. So it was banned from being imported into Nigeria. Some other country also did put a ban on that material. Now, according to still research, such an item cannot get into Nigeria without clearance from NAFDAC and other necessary bodies. And tapping that conversation of the NSA, he claimed that that was being shipped into Nigeria in large quantities, and the National Security Advisor should be asked why that was brought into the country. So while this is the backstory of it, EFCC, he was held up in at the airport where his supporters were trying to protect him from being arrested by the EFCC until he was invited to EFCC and then apprehended. It's taken about 90 days since he has been in the custody of the EFCC. And now he is granted bail. Now,
100 million naira.
100 million naira bail. Showore was also seen present in court. This was yesterday. Remember, the bail hearing was supposed to be sometime around, I think it was March, the 30th of March, and he went to bury his mom. He was giving a condolence bail or something of that sort, and was back to the custody. And then, these whole proceedings took a lot of time. But finally, he has been granted 100 million naira bail. The trial judge was Justice Joyce Abdul Malik, and she admitted to the bail of 100 million naira with one shorty in like sum. Also, the court ruled that the shorty must reside in either Maitama or Asokoro, which is where he has properties as well, District of Abuja, and must also deposit the original certificate of occupancy of a landed property at the court registry. And of course, we know this is where the case is at right now. This is the proceedings in court yesterday. We might just want to take a look at that before we move on to the very next headline for today. All right, this is the last story we'll be taking right now, but we'll go out on a very quick break, and when we get back, we'll keep up with this conversation. Please do stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching Rapid, and of course, it is time for the big conversation. And we have been keeping you updated on some of the headlines that are making the rounds this morning. And right now, we'll continue on politics, where we saw that there were rowdy scenes as former Vice President Atiku Abubakar returned his presidential nomination form. Supporters and party members reportedly crowded the venue, leading to the tension and, of course, disorder during the process. Now, whether you support Atiku Abubakar or not, one thing, according to the ADC, is clear, that he is one of the biggest political figures in the country, Nigeria. And most times, every political move around him continues to attract national attention. For very recently, there has been talks about the fact that, within the ADC right now, Chibike Rotimi, who did talk about it earlier on, did mention that Atiku Abubakar doesn't support the primaries. And so he doesn't support, the zoning rather. And Amechi said, let us head down to the primaries and then see who is going to eventually emerge as the card bearer, for the party come 2027 general election. Of course, this again brought a lot of concern, especially because the ADC had come out together with other opposition parties to hold a summit in Ibadan, stating that they were going to be fielding just one candidate for the 2027 election. But the back and forth has also led to the fact that they've now postponed the primaries for the presidential nomination of the ADC to tomorrow. It was supposed to be held today, but they moved it to tomorrow. Let's see what's going to happen, due to that particular postponement. Who is going to emerge as the card bearer, or for the ADC, come tomorrow? That we're going to find out.
Fingers are crossed.
Definitely.
Because in fact, after a major exit from the ADC, the major exit from the ADC into the NDC, because of course shortly after Peter Obi and Kwankwaso left the party to NDC, almost immediately at that same week we had about 17 members of the House decamp from ADC to NDC. So it's been an interesting turn of events after the exit of that, and that's why I was smiling when you were talking about the fact that he said his political moves sparks national attention. I'm like, that describes someone from your party that we know about. However, he's been on and off. Of course, he's one of the political, should I say, big wigs here in Nigeria. However, his exit from major parties, and I would call uncalculated as described by major political headlines here in Nigeria, has sparked a lot of reactions. And now him dropping the nomination form for the ADC, what does that say? I mean, I'm trying to find out what the aim of that is, because if you think that you probably are deserving of that seat, dropping the nomination form wouldn't be the most immediate step, because that's how the people that support you can also, show you that they support you at the polls during the primaries, right? So I'm trying to figure that out a bit.
Well, he has interest right there. Wants to be president of Nigeria. He's had that interest for a long time. Recall the recent interview.
I mean, that's very obvious to everyone.
Of course, the recent interview that he had, right? So when he was asked if he was going to contest again after this year, he said this is going to be his last time, So maybe he's trying to put in the last fight to ensuring that if he clinches the ticket as well, for the primaries, and they eventually heads down to the polls, if he wins, it becomes a victory for him as a person. If he doesn't as well, according to him, this is going to be the last time that he's going to be contesting for the seat of the presidency here in Nigeria. But again, Amici has come out to say, well, we'll just have to head down to the primaries because the concept of zoning is there for the party. And this was the same issue that he had, in 2023, whilst he was in the PDP. Zoning was a thing within the party as at the time, but they didn't follow through the zoning principle for the PDP, which of course led to the rancor that is going on up until today within the People's Democratic Party. Now we have various factions in the PDP, though most of them wouldn't want to call it a faction, but still we have various factions in the PDP, and of course they've now left the PDP, formed a coalition, and similar issues going on within that particular coalition. What is going to happen come tomorrow? Well, fingers are still crossed, just like you said.
All right, next headline, which of course will be the very last for today. Am I getting that right? Unless Victor has a lot more to keep you updated with. But yes, the Dangote Petroleum has tried to reduce the pressure on the aviation sector by reducing the cost of aviation fuel. It was at 1,750 naira. He has reduced to 1,650 naira per liter as part of the continuous efforts to ease cost pressures on airlines. In fact, many times on the 30th of April, the aviation sector had come out to say that they'd be going out on an indefinite strike because they could no longer keep up with the expenses of aviation fuel and the cost of running for these airlines. They also did make mention of the fact that the cost of the tickets will double up and they would go on strike on 30, but they suspended it after an intervention by the president, right? And they have still spoken about that on major headlines today, like the Punch newspaper and the Guardian newspaper. They did make mention of tickets. That was yesterday. They did make mention of the possibility of tickets doubling because of the cost of fuel. However, the Dangote refinery has intervened, and according to them, he reassured them on uninterrupted fuel supply across the country. Now, under a federal government package intervention program, Dangote is also providing a 30-day interest-free credit facility backed by bank guarantees for marketers and online operators or airline operators, as well as a shift from a dollar-dominated pricing structure to now a naira-based model. The interventions come amid growing concerns, like we have established here, about the rising operational costs faced by domestic carriers, with aviation fuel accounting for like a significant portion of the airline expenses. And this price reduction by Dangote Refinery is expected to bring relief to these airline operators in regards to regarding what they have complained about as the pressures that they face in the aviation sector. But yes, he's also talking about bringing stability and supporting efforts to moderate the airfares. And I think the most important thing at this point will be the moderating of the airfares, because take a look at how I remember going to Lagos for about 12,000 naira. I remembered flying to Lagos for 12 to 15,000 naira. That's almost like an impossible thing to say right now, because it's an impossible thing. It's an impossible thing to say right now. I don't think you can get even 50,000 naira.
No, I mean from 90,000 and above.
And above, and
it's over 100.
Over 100,000 and above, and we're still talking about the security situations here in Nigeria, which means that people now have gotten the option of flying. People had the option of flying rather than using the roads. But at this point, I don't think we have so much options, because now flying is expensive. Also, using the roads is also expensive, because buses that will take you to Lagos for 20,000, 25,000, now you'll be spending almost 80,000 naira by bus to go to Lagos. So
some of the luxurious buses.
Exactly. This is just 100 naira decrease in the price of everything. But I mean, I don't think it will amount to much to significantly reducing the cost of airfares here in Nigeria. It's a long ride. It's a long ride to stability, but this is just a step, and we're hoping that it does bring about some sort of relief for them as well. There are other interesting headlines, and
you talked about options. The truth is, we have the options, but we can't afford the options.
I said it's expensive. The roads are expensive. I mean,
now, but
they're all expensive.
Roads, by boats, is in the aviation as well. All crazy at this point in time. But we do hope that it's going to be all sorted out, and of course, Nigerians can actually explore these options and it can be afforded as much as possible. But finally, let's talk about the APC primaries, right? There's been lots of drama within the APC primaries. Various some incumbents have come out to even complain about the fact that well, some of them didn't get to make it down there. Recall that in Delta State, the former governor of Delta State actually clinched the ticket, beating Ned Woko, rather defeating Ned Woko to claiming the ticket for the senatorial seat in Delta State, and various updates as well. Earlier on, we talked about the fact that Ben Morris Blues was defeated, but of course the APC have come out to say, well, there's a U-turn right now there. And just to give us some context to the story, it says the All Progressive Congress has made a U-turn on its earlier list of senatorial aspirants barred from its Senate primaries, removing five names, including that of former Senator Ben Morris Bruce, in an updated version issued on Monday. Of course, that you can see on your screen. The updated list, signed by the National Publicity Secretary, Felix Morka, shortly after the first list was released on Monday, reduced the number of affected aspirants from 47 to 44 with no explanation offered for the deletions. Well, Morka said that the All Progressive Congress hereby releases an updated list of senatorial aspirants not cleared to participate in the party's Senate primary election. And the party is urging all stakeholders to uphold transparency, orderliness, and of course integrity of the ongoing primary election process across all the states. Yeah, that's of course the update there for the APC primaries, and we'll keep you updated as it all continue to unfold. Do remember that this is an interesting season, especially because it is the political season. Come 2027 elections will hold, but of course these are the procedures that all the political parties are following through, to ensuring that they field their candidate for the 2027 general elections. With that being said, that's all we're going to be taking on the big conversation today. Do remember that you can follow us on our social media pages across our platform at RapidTV. And of course, you can get to watch all our episodes on YouTube at Official RapidTV. And wherever you are in the world, you can watch us live using our website, www.arabianradiotv.com. My name is Victor. Okay.
My name is Martha Alo. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.